Welcome everyone to Charting Your Course with myself, Kathy Ma, and the phenomenal Debbie Smart. And if you want to get hold of Debbie or myself for any readings or sessions, you can get a private session by contacting Tanoch at galactichistorian.com. That's TENOCH at galactichistorian.com. And we'll get to the bottom of the issues and help you see a better way ahead. And also to let everyone know that today Andrew Bartzis is not joining us. He's out on location, so the Galactic Historian is not in today, but he will be back next week. And for those of you who don't know, Andrew is offering a free video series called Living the Mystical Life Daily. He shows you some tools and gives you knowledge about how to have mystical experiences in your everyday life. So sign up for free at andrewbartzis.com. Just put your name and email when you get to the page and you'll receive the first video right away. Again, just get it at andrewbartzis.com and enter your name and email to receive the Living the Mystical Life Daily series. And of course, don't forget to check out Debbie Smart's website, which is innerdimensionhypnotherapy.net. And of course, if you want to learn more about me, you can check out my website, which is kathyspearlsofwisdom.com. So today we're going to be talking about women and the divine feminine and being a sovereign woman in today's life. And everything that is attached with it. So what we will do is I and Debbie will be talking about it for the first hour. And in the second hour, we will take callers. If you want to call in and talk about your issues that you're having that are going on and share them with all of us and other women out there that have something to share that will be helpful to all of us, really, you can Skype Laura Lee at Laura Lee Solomon. That's LaurelleeSolomon, and get a Skype request to her so that she can accept you to take the call. Or you can call the Studio B, which is 310-421-4053, or Laura, 956-217-0261. Wow, that was a bit of a mouthful of announcements. So today we're going to talk about the divine feminine, the sovereign feminine that we are. And for those of you that are not females, I should say, this is a good chance to learn about what's going on for women today and the issues that we're facing. And if you have any feedback or anything you want to share with us, please, you're welcome as well. This is designed so that we can all learn more about what everyone is facing and how we cope with it and what are the good techniques that we can use to go through it. So, Debbie, I think you have a great story to share about women in the workplace today, don't you?
Yes, we were discussing that a lot earlier, Kathy, and we were just talking about how women how they have to deal, or certain things that they have to deal with in a workplace. And it's not in every workplace, but in certain areas where it's man or male dominated. And my daughter, who's an electrical and mechanical engineer, as well as a civil engineer, she decided to get work in a place called MC Squared, which is male dominated. And she said that she really had a struggle there to try, and she had to work twice as hard to prove herself being a female in a male dominated area, which surprised me because, Kathy, I always thought that, we're living in such an we're living in the years 2000, and you wouldn't think that this would still be happening. We talk about equality for women, and there's still this level of inequality in a man's world. Even in the financial world, you look in Wall Street, it's a majority of male. And so how do women cope in these situations? Do they have to try and prove themselves that they're just as equally intelligent and that they're equally able to do the work that a man can do?
I know it's a big challenge, isn't it? I mean, we've gone through all the race of females. We've gone through all this hardship in the past, to get the vote, to get the rights, to get equal this, equal that. Yet there's such a disparity sometimes in some industries. Well, I guess not even just some industries, just across the board, but certainly in certain types of industries, it's harder. And how does a woman really get to be herself and be feminine in their own I guess, their own gender, but without being accused of using their feminine guiles or wiles to get what they want. I mean, for me, a lot of the things that I've come across and the clients that I have read, one of the big issues was, women are, number one, you can't rely upon them because they might get pregnant and then they won't be working. And the second one was, oh, but if you say anything to them, they'll start crying. And I looked at those issues, and it's difficult because yes, some women do, but it's also a bias that's been put on the female gender that is taken across the board, which is a bit unfair. I mean, I will freely admit that even I know people that do cry on purpose to get their way, or will use their feminine guiles to get what they want. And they really do the rest of the women a disservice because women are then judged on those few criteria and therefore considered not as effective, or not as strong or powerful or reliable, a whole range of things. And it's overcoming this preconceived idea with other male colleagues that is the challenge, and it's how you cope with it and how you deal with it is really what makes you start to stand apart. I mean, there is nothing wrong with enjoying being a female, enjoying the femininity, but at the same time recognizing that you're a sovereign being. You don't have to fall back into these traditional roles that we've been brought up to believe, what should I say? I'm trying to think of a diplomatic way to put it. Fall back into these traditional roles that society has pretty much engineered for the female race. And how does a woman then become forceful and strong and, in many people's eyes, dominating without being oppressive to the male gender? And that's a really, really fine balance of where things go. And one of the things that I've always told female clients is, the first thing you have to do is ground yourself. Of course, everything is always about grounding. But then once you have, you really need to remain focused on what your goal is. Like if your goal is to get attention so that your report is read by your superiors that just happen to be male, then forget about the gender. Think about tactics. It's like, okay, maybe there is gender bias where you work, but how you deal with it is up to you. So even if you suspect there is gender bias, there are still many ways that you can get interest shown to look at what your report is, or to acknowledge your existence and hear your opinion about certain topics. One of the most powerful things always to do is always include everyone. So if you were going to submit a report that you want read by the powers upstairs, there is no point in superseding your immediate boss, who might happen to be a male, because by doing this, you only antagonize people and you will never get anywhere. So as long as everyone is included in the process, for example, that means like CC people so they know what's going on, then that is one way that you can get in there. There is nothing wrong with a bit of aggressiveness within the workplace, but it's how you do it. And you have to think more in terms of fair and not fair. Don't think about gender bias. Don't think about they won't listen to me because I'm a woman. Whether that may be true or not is irrelevant. You have to keep finding more ways to get inventive, to get your voice heard, get your work read. And I'm sure that's what your daughter did, didn't she, Debbie?
Yes, she did. She ended up writing a report where she saw the weaknesses in the company, and they ended up making her a project manager. So it's just being really inventive. She didn't go out trying to put anybody down. She worked out a way where she saw the weaknesses, and she took that to the bosses and absolutely blew them away. So it's, if you are, that intelligent and you have a really great job where it's male dominated, you can use your mind and your creativity to overcome a situation where you can show that you can shine.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, in this sense, women tend to be a bit more creative in approaches. And I'm not in any way saying men are not creative. It's just that what women have learned to be more inventive and creative throughout their growing up, purely because of that bias that has existed before. And using your mind and your domination, I'm going to call it domination because if I use any other word, it's going to sound like too mamby-pamby.
Or,
So I guess I meant your dominant force, your proactiveness, and just keep going for it, because don't be disheartened if you think that it's a male-dominated world where you're working and you can't get through. You can get through. You just have to think outside the box and think, well, I can't go directly, so how can I get there? You know, even if you don't have access to give a report to the higher ups or email it, you can write it down, photocopy it, throw it all around the office. I mean, there are tons of things that you can do. Obviously, put your name on it. But there are really tons of things that you can do if you think outside the box. You have to think more proactive, less, oh, one day they'll recognize me. No, if you see something, go for it. And, you know, when you look at men, that's what they do. That's how they've been taught all their lives, and that's what works for them. It can work for you too, but you just have to get more inventive, because you may not have the direct approach opportunity available to you.
Exactly. And also the opportunity, a lot of those places, especially higher type places of a workplace where there's a lot of competition. The great idea that my daughter came up with is also to speak up at meetings. You know, they have staff meetings, and this is where your voice can be heard. And if you go there confident and well prepared about what you would like to bring up or submit that would actually help the company, it's always really good to look at something that may boost the company's morale, boost up the company's figures, you know, their sales or whatever it is that you're dealing with. How you can improve a company. If you're looking at improving and helping, you cannot go wrong. But you can do it with confidence without stepping on anybody's toes.
Yes, that is so true, so true. I mean, one of the things that I've found through, you know, the thousands of clients I've seen is one of the main reasons women feel a bit intimidated or feel like they can't get any further with where they are is a lot of it is from their childhood, adolescence, early 20s. The world has just socialized them so much to believe that that is so, that their self-esteem is not as high as it should be. And when your self-esteem is not as high as it should be, then it affects your self-worth. And one of the things that I really try and get my clients to look for is, when you finished your grounding, is to acknowledge that you are smart, that you are a highly intelligent being, and to look back into your past and find examples of it. Because when you can start writing down the examples and you can see that this is so, it gives you more confidence. One of the things I think also probably, Debbie, is in your hypnotherapy and past life regression is there probably is something in there as well that affects women, do you think?
Oh, definitely. That's all the time. Hypnosis is a wonderful way to change the beliefs that were being embedded in you as a young child or even from another lifetime. I always go back to the root cause and say, as a child, that you were always constantly told, oh, you're stupid, or you're clumsy, or you're not smart as the kid next door, or whatever it is, the programming that's being put into your mind. Through hypnosis, we can go through and change that programming and release that and put in a positive way of thinking, because we have taken on our mind. Whenever we take on anything, we're told we're this or we're that or we're lazy. As a young child, you're so open, your mind is so open that you take it on. And you always, because you look up to your parents and you think, well, they must be right because they're your hero. And the thing is that by the time you get into the workforce, and you have been, told that you're not smart as the other kids, or you're a bit lazy, or you're too slow, or whatever it is, it's going to affect your work level and the way you believe about yourself. And that boils down to not feeling good enough, and it hits your self-worth. And, oh, well, I'm not worthy to hold a position like this, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough to have, a management position or a supervisory position. And you're worth everything. And the thing is that we go in there through hypnosis and change that belief system. And that way, when we change that belief system, it changes through your whole body. It changes the way you present yourself, the way you talk, the way you think. And that is a really great benefit that you can have, and you can use that tool to increase your life.
Yes, that sounds like something that I know a lot of people could use.
I've used it myself.
Yeah. Because I mean, so much of it is about the mind, and it's not necessarily like so many women I find say, "Oh, it's all my fault. It's all my fault." It's like it's not your fault. It's just a product of all the experiences that have happened in your life. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. But today you can choose to change it. Today you make a choice to either continue with that or do something about it. And that's where the big difference is. I remember I had one client who was having a lot of trouble. She was in the business side of things in a company, and her biggest issue was she was missing out on a lot of information and opportunities because all the guys in the office would go out and smoke cigars and drink whiskey after work, and that's where all the real stuff went on. And she didn't smoke cigars. And I was like, well, think of this in a very logistical level. If you were a bloke and you didn't smoke cigars, you're still going to go. Why do you discount it because you don't smoke cigars and you think you can't go? And it took her a while to understand that this actually was not something that they had manifested. It was something that had existed, and she bought into the fact that she couldn't go. It's not that she was being excluded. The corporate environment was just the way it was, but she hadn't thought that she could join. But when she started to think about it, when we highlighted the points that, well, other guys go there and they don't smoke, so what's the big deal? Then she could really change her mindset and invited herself along. And from that moment on, got along really well with all the guys. And, in fact, she got along better than some of the guys that were already in the group because she was a novelty. So they all wanted to talk to her, especially about business. So it totally worked out for her. So again, it's sometimes it's not about the corporate environment that you perceive. It's about whether or not you think you can join it because it's already set up and you don't feel welcome. But it's not that you were not that you weren't invited. It's that you just didn't have the courage to go and invite yourself, which is what a lot of the people do, whether they're male or female.
That's exactly right. I've seen that happen a lot. And you see it even in movies, where all the guys get together and smoke the cigars and it's a male club and all that sort of thing. And that's the programming, that's the old programming that's been put out there in the media. And it's just having the confidence, like you said, it was just wonderful, Kathy, that you're saying that, well, if you had been a guy and didn't smoke, would you have gone out there or what would you have done? And so we've got to stop seeing ourselves as that different. If we start to change our ways of thinking about in the different situations that we find ourselves in, well, the great thing is that, we can always find a solution as to overcome it. Instead of sort of just buying into the social conditioning that we've been taught to believe through eons, that it's not a woman's place to join the guys when they're smoking or whatever it is, or whatever the situation is, you can find a way around it and make it work for you.
Yes, it definitely is. So, I mean, I guess one of the points we're trying to raise is like sometimes the situation is not so much that the male gender has anything against females. It's just that the females are not as proactive to join male-dominated things. So sometimes when you're in a work environment or even a social environment and you think, oh, well, it's all the boys. It's like you have to really think about your own judgment because you're judging them on something that they don't even know about. And then you're going one way when really, if you were more open to things and weren't so intimidated by the whole thing, you could join in and stuff and completely have a wonderful, fulfilling time. But I mean, obviously, this doesn't work for every single group, whether it's male, female, or mixed. Sometimes people just don't meld, they don't mesh very well, and that's just the way it is. But I think one of the big drawbacks or mistakes that females make is thinking that they can't or they're not welcome, when in actual fact, this is not a boyfriend-girlfriend thing. If you don't make your mark, why would you be joining? In any corporate situation or any business situation, you're there because of your value and your worth. So show them, because if it was, to use an example, if you were in let's say a corporate situation and it was all men and one guy turns up and he's a wonderful guy but shy and doesn't say boo and doesn't get invited out anywhere, is he any less worthy than the others? No, he's just shy and hasn't invited himself, because that's just the way things work. If you want to come, let people know. Not everyone will always extend you the olive branch or the invitation, because this is not a social situation. This is a work situation. So you need to show people that you're interested to join, that you want to join, and that you're completely capable of introducing yourself and making a mark. Whether or not you actually like them is a completely different story. Whether or not once you go out once or twice you think it's worth it, that you want to continue going out with them or just ditch them, it's completely up to you. But the point is of this whole thing, I guess, you have the absolute right to do it, and no one is saying you can't do it. It's a question of whether or not you're prepared to take that big step. You know, even if you're scared, you're like and walk on up and say, oh, where you were going tonight? You know, if they don't tell you, it won't matter, because you'll overhear it anyway. You can just show up. It's not like they're not going to talk to you, you know. But, you know, sometimes you do end up working with a group of people that are very cliquey and not very nice. So you don't end up hanging out with them. But it has nothing to do with female, male. It's just they're complete tossers.
Exactly.
You know. It happens.
It does. You know, also, you know, it depends on where you choose to take your talent. And, you know, you have to look at, when you're choosing a career or choosing a life path, you have to look at yourself and the situation and going, so if I'm going to choose this path and it is a male orientated path, well, you know, how am I going to include myself in there? How do I feel about myself in a situation like that? Will I still be able to shine in that situation? And it's all about choice and how you present your mind to taking on that, you know, on that challenge. And it can be a challenge, and other times it doesn't have to be. If you are smart enough to be in that arena and to play in that arena in a male orientated field, that you can find a way where they will accept you because you have a great mind, and you go in there with the confidence and the attitude that I deserve to be here. I can actually add value to this company. I can add value to this group. And that way you can really get in there and be in balance. You don't have to you don't have to be macho about it, and you don't have to be over feminine about it. You don't have to use any of the wiles or the crying or whatever to present anything. You go in there with a mindset that I can do this, I can add value, I deserve to be here, and everybody will actually respond to that attitude.
Yes. I mean, a lot of it is about attitude, the way you think, the way you perceive yourself, the way you present yourself. And, you know, it's difficult because for a lot of women today, even today, I should say, you know, they're brought up to be more docile than their counterparts. And it's difficult. It's difficult to overcome that stereotype and that conditioning. But if you want to go far, you have to think, well, if I want to go further, I can't sit here and wait for it. I have to make it happen. And with all these restrictions that I think I have, how am I going to do it? I mean, that's what it comes down to. No one's going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. And that's one thing that I'd say probably most men have been brought up to acknowledge that's the way they act, not necessarily the female. So it's just a mindset and a feeling of, I can do it. I can do it. Because, you know, when guys get brought up, no one's telling them, oh, you know, you don't bother how to circumvent a female boss, you know, this and that. They're just told, you want it, go get it. You achieve it, go get it, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of the mindset that a woman has to start to learn to adopt same way.
Yes.
Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, so the thing is with, you know, through society over the many years, and we know that we all acknowledge the fact through lifetimes of the way women have been treated. And this is the time period now for change. And this is the time period where we can actually start to make the change. And so it's really within us to be able to do that and to bring that about. The conditioning, you know, we can overcome our conditioning and what we've been taught if we're strong and put our mindset to it. Whatever you think, you can create and you can become it. And so it's just learning how to incorporate those sort of types of thoughts and belief systems into yourself that can encourage you and strengthen you and give you the courage to go there and be everything that you can be and follow the path that you want to follow and overcome all the conditioning of the ancestry that's been going through lifetimes and the genetics and whatever. But we have the mindset now that we can overcome it, and the opportunities are now way more open for women than they ever have been.
Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, one of the ironic things I find about this situation, and, with all my clients, which I'm sure you found the same, Debbie, is that with all this, sort of, I'm not going to say complaining, but all these issues that have come up, to work in a female-dominated company also is no picnic.
Oh, I agree.
Women can be very bitter, very petty, and there's a lot of jealousy that can go around, and you don't hear about a lot of meetings, you don't get memos. Very, very tricky, sneaky stuff that can go on. So it's a weird thing sometimes to hear people talk about how hard it is to break into a male-dominated company when just the opposite thing. I mean, if you turn the spectrum around, for a woman to get in a female-dominated company, here comes our ad. So we will come back to this topic after we hear all these messages. Welcome back, everyone, to Charting Your Course. Thank you for tuning in. And today it is myself, Kathy Ma, and also the phenomenal Debbie Smart. Andrew Bartz, the Galactic historian, is out on location today and won't be here. And for those of you who are interested in a private session and that want to go deeper with your questions and issues with either Debbie or myself, go ahead and call the office now at 1 for America 360-894-0692, and they'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Again, the number for a one-on-one session with Debbie or myself is 360-894-0692. And if you want to learn about more about Debbie, please check out her website, which is innerdimensionhypnotherapy.net. .net, And then, of course, if you want to learn more about me, my website is kathyspearlsofwisdom.com. We will be taking calls in the second hour of the show to see if anyone wants to talk about their issues or any opinions they have about things that are related to women and the workplace or the social arena. And the context for that is you can Skype Laura Lee Solomon, or you can call Studio B, which is 310-421-4053, or Laura directly at 956-217-0261. So we were just talking about the issues with females also working in an actually not even just females, anyone working in an all-female environment is also no picnic.
Definitely not.
No picnic at all. So, I mean, when you do the comparison, in actual fact, working in a male-dominated work environment sometimes really has more benefits because your only issue and challenge is to be taken more seriously and to advance. Whereas working in a female-dominated situation, it can often be very stressful, and there's often a lot of drama when you have all sorts of issues that are going on that are very multifaceted. So in many ways, one has to look at their own situation and think, really, am I that badly off? I can find ways. Whichever scenario you're in, it isn't that hard ultimately to find ways to grow. And sometimes one also has to recognize that maybe they're just not suited for that particular corporate or work environment, and maybe a change is needed. Because sometimes no matter what you do, it just doesn't pan out because the people are very difficult to work with, or the work content you're doing, whether you are on a more menial side or a more advanced side, can also be unfulfilling and uninteresting. It has nothing to do with which gender you are. So sometimes you've got to look further and further into what's going on within that work environment to see what really the actual causes are that are giving you trouble or angst. It's not necessarily the ones that you think it might be.
I totally agree. Yes, and my other daughter actually is in a situation where she's with a lot of other nurses, and there's a lot of competition that goes on between them, and it's become very, very stressful. And so you're very right. It doesn't really matter where you are. Sometimes it would be better to be in a male-dominated situation than in with a lot of, with a lot of women who are trying to undermine you to make themselves look better. There's more competition between women than there are men. So it's a choice of where you're going to be or what situation you're going to allow yourself to get into and how you're going to handle it. And trying to stay even in these situations and trying to stay balanced and grounded. And that's where all the different processes that, Andrew show, his meditations and living the mystical life daily is to create our reality the way that we want to live it. So it's, it's a choice and an opportunity to, in these situations, it's a choice and opportunity to sit down, go over what's happening in your life. Where is it bringing you stress? How is it affecting your family life? Or how is it even affecting your health? And these are times when you have to really make some important decisions. Is this job really suitable for me? Is this situation really going to benefit me, or is it going to harm me? Or is there a way that I can overcome it and change it? So there's so many different choices that we have to make in life every day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just to get up, that's like 3 choices. Shall I get up now, later, snooze? The minute you wake up, there's decisions.
Yes, there is.
One of the great things that I discovered, which I recommend a lot, is if you're in an environment, whether it's actually home environment or work environment, if you feel there's a lot of antagonism coming towards you, a lot of hostility, for whatever reason, one of the absolute best things and easiest things to do is put a piece of black tourmaline on your desk, because you don't even have to explain to people. If anyone asks, you could just say it's a paperweight. No need to explain to anyone. And just get the raw type. No need to have it all fancy. And what that does is it deflects back any negative energy that is directed towards you. So you're not doing anything to anyone. You're just giving back. It's almost like your protection shield, like Wonder Woman's shield. And that is a number one go-to thing that you must have if there's anything going on in an office.
And another thing too, Kathy, is that, when you do wake up in the morning, maybe set your alarm clock for 10 minutes earlier and sit up and focus and create as the scene of your office for the day. And this is how I want my day to look. And visualize very strongly in your mind's eye, walking into that office, seeing people smiling, you smiling, seeing everything being more harmony and balance, and create an energy so that when you walk into it, you're not walking into any stress or strain, but see if that your consciousness can actually start changing and shifting the energy that's in there.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, every morning and every night, I always do my own grounding meditation, and that's the main one. But I also do my visualization. And in that, you have to decide what it is that, obviously you can't visualize everything. You have to decide what it is that day that you want to achieve or you want to attract. And if you're having trouble in your work environment, for example, then one of the things that I would definitely visualize is a smooth, harmonious day. All right. And if you're getting a lot of aggression coming your way, then you want not only a smooth, harmonious day, but you want a seamless transition between all meetings, between all interaction with people, and really visualize that in your head. Whatever that is for you, visualize yourself looking happy because all these things are happening. And so when you're bringing in, that wonderful golden energy that's going to seal it off, then definitely have all these in your head, because it will make a humongous difference. And even if you don't believe in this type of thing, what is it going to hurt to try, right? It's only a few minutes out of your day, morning and night. But to see the difference it makes is quite incredible. Just those few little things that you're visualizing. And it's always things like harmony, smooth transition, not necessarily get that promotion. I mean, that not saying you can't visualize that, but that's taking a lot of different things, putting it together. It's almost like saying, I want to win the lotto. Like everyone wants a promotion. Everyone wants to win the lotto. But rather than directly ask for that, then you ask for recognition by your bosses for work that you have done, recognition by the management for work that you've done, and that you get praise for being talented. If you visualize these things, then the promotion will come next. It's more like, don't just go directly out to the main goal and visualize that. Think of it in the small steps. What small steps do you need to be happening for you to get that end goal, and do those visualizations every day.
Yes, that's perfect, Kathy. I totally agree. And the thing is too that when somebody is walking towards you and they're smiling, you can't help but respond because you're picking up on that happy emotion that's coming towards you. And so when you go into the workplace and it has been, stressful the day before and everybody's been grumpy and whatever, and you've changed that visualization in your morning meditation before you go to work, and you go in there feeling good about yourself and seeing this, even if people haven't changed, but you have. The fact is that you're going to go in there with an energy vortex around you of happiness, balance, peace, harmony, and gradually that will ripple out, because people can't stay really angry at you for very long if you're just going to be cheery and happy and, how are you, or whatever, and get in there and do your work and not buy into any of the stress or the attitudes that are maybe going on, but try and stay uplifted so that you can lift them up as well instead of them dragging you down with them.
Oh yeah. Positive attitude, definitely. I mean, even if you're not feeling it, even if you wake up that day, you're all grumpy or hungover or PMSing, it's like you got to try and just let that stuff go. Because if you take it on board, you take it to work, people pick up on that, and then they're not sure why they're feeling so, well, not angry, but excuse me, stressed or whatever. And, it's because you're exuding that as well. So if you want people to react in a positive way, you must definitely, you really control your aura and your energy around you. If there is no way that you can, like you've had some sort of trauma, like you've had a terrible breakup or there's been some family disaster, then really try and see if you can alienate yourself into a small area for that morning while you regather all your energies. Because inevitably, when that situation happens to you and all your energies are all shattered and all over the place, and your emotions are just going yo-yo, there's always something that happens and someone wants to come and talk to you, and you can't focus and you end up blubbering.
Yes, that's true.
Even if you were to say, I'm on a very important document, I can't talk until after lunch, people will understand it. You don't have to explain everything. No need to go into it. Just acknowledge their existence, that they have approached you, and give them the time that you will talk to them again. But let yourself reintegrate all those kind of energies for yourself and have a more focused line of being before you approach difficult questions at work. Because when your focus is not on, it's always the one time someone's going to bring up, oh, but you said blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what? I did? Are you sure it was me? And that's a good technique for everyone to learn, is if you're really not yourself at the time, then find a way so that you can just bubble yourself for a while until you regroup your energies. Because giving people just a scattered part of you is never great, especially when it's a work-related question.
Exactly, and there's a saying too: "Fake it till you make it," and
Yeah, I like that.
So you can, go in there and still smile, but, even if you're feeling shattered underneath and everything, you can go in there and still smile and just say hi to everybody, and then just go find a quiet, just try and keep your head down, look like you're really working busy so that you can regroup yourself and still not allow it to affect your work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult technique to actually master. I have to say, it took me a long time to be able to master that technique. And even now, I'm not sure if I've totally mastered it.
Well, there's sometimes we have some earth-shattering things that happen in our lives, and sometimes when it's that bad, it's probably better to stay home.
Yeah.
You know, if you've lost a friend or someone's passed away or died or whatever, and you just know that you're going to go to work and you're going to be a mess and you're going to cry all day, that's not a great situation to take into a workplace either. So you have to really assess, you know, am I going to be productive and give value today? If not, then I'm better off staying home and just, you know, and telling them the truth. You know, I just had a close family friend or whatever pass away, and I just need to grieve today.
Mm, mm.
You know, whatever the situation is. But you know, if it's just a family argument and you know there's stress on the home front and there's money problems or whatever the problem is, you can change some of your energy within you just within that 10 minutes of focus of grounding yourself, and you know, and seeing yourself in a bubble where that you can bring harmony and balance back into your body and not allow that to absolutely, you know, stress you out to the point where it's affecting people around you or your energy.
Yes, most definitely. I mean, if you have that option, yeah, definitely take the day off. But I mean, if it's not possible, then try to decrease the amount of contact you have with others
Exactly.
until you pretty much got a handle on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It certainly is a tough one. I mean, another thing I'd like to address is when women also often, I mean, I hear it a lot that people don't take them seriously in the workplace, is you also have to look at yourself, you know, and I don't mean this to sound that harsh, but some women do not really dress appropriately to go to work. Maybe they're meeting friends later, and so that's their outfit for later. But when you go to a work environment, you have to look at what is the standard acceptable dress code at where you work, and you have to abide by it. Like if everyone else is in suits, you either wear something that is like a suit or is covering up, not the short mini skirt and very long red nails. Because if you want to be part of a culture, you must actually embrace the culture to a certain degree. And I'm not saying change, but you need to adapt. So when you start working at a certain place, you already know what the culture is. If you want to be taken seriously and as a peer, a colleague peer, then you must reflect back to people what they're reflecting to you. So if they're expecting people to be respectful and follow a certain dress code, then you must respect that culture, that work environment, and dress accordingly, not because you think that this outfit's cute and you're going to wear it. And for me, that's been a big thing because a lot of women, the clients that I see, you know, even when they see me, I don't even need to actually be psychic to look at it and say, did you just come from work? Don't you work in like a business office that, you know, is corporate? Like, is that an appropriate amount of breast to be revealing?
Exactly.
You know, so if you want to work in that type of business culture, you have to in some way reflect that business culture and also respect the fact that that's what it is. If you don't like the dress code or the way that they all, you know, put on their outfits, then don't work there.
Exactly. A lot of people say, well, why should I conform? The fact is, it's not about conforming. It's about respecting the standards that they have. They used to have those type of really high standards in certain restaurants. The really classy type of restaurants that, you know, want to bring in a higher standard of person. It requires a man to wear a shirt and a jacket. It used to be a tie. Now it's just a dress shirt or a casual dress shirt and a jacket and shoes. It's the same idea as, you know, if you're working in a very high corporate situation, then you have to dress appropriately. When you're going for a job interview, it's the same thing. What do you want them to know about you when you walk in for an interview? You know, you don't want to be all having low cut, you know, like mini skirts and all that sort of thing, because what does that say about you? It's, you know, how you dress and your first impression to a boss or employer is how you present yourself. And if you really want them to take you seriously, then you have to go make sure that you present yourself in a way that they will take you seriously and that you care about yourself, that you have a standard. And that standard also shows in the type of work that you do. If you come in dressed really sloppy in jeans and a real sloppy top, it's disrespectful to yourself and to the office or, you know, to the job that you're applying for. So it's really being really looking at what type of work that you're going into, what sort of field that you're going into. Some fields are really casually dressed, and others. But when you're still going for an interview, even if it is a casual dress, you go in there looking appropriate. You're looking at your hair done nicely, your clothing, looking good and not disheveled and looks ironed or unironed. It's people take you at face value when they first meet you, and that's the most important thing to do, is to present yourself in a way that you want people to be able to see you and treat you.
Yeah, most certainly. And one of the I guess I'd say not idiosyncrasies, but one of the strange things about this type of issue is I always hear the same things. Why should I change my dress code to suit them? And you throw the question back, well, why should they give you the promotion?
Yes.
Like, I'm not saying fair or not fair in terms of ability, but that is the culture. I'm sure you didn't go for interview dressed like this. So, and because of the laws these days, most employers cannot say too much about your attire, unless it's very big corporate and they straight down to the line tell you how long your skirt can be and things like this. So one of the reasons you have to look at is the reason I'm not getting promoted because they're not taking me seriously because of these clothes and the image I'm portraying. And if you think, well, I don't care, I want to wear what I want, well, okay, fine. But then you have to acknowledge to yourself that you could be setting yourself back. It's got nothing to do with the people in the office, male-dominated, female-dominated, whatever. It's about you, your presentation, and their acceptance of it. And, if that is the issue, then you either have to conform a little bit or look for something different that can totally go on board with the way that you like to wear clothes.
So, Kathy, I was in a work environment way back where one of the sales representatives, the women, should be going out to see clients, and the complaints started coming back in that she had very hairy underarms and she always wore sleeveless, and she had very hairy legs and she refused, and she wore a skirt. And so the complaints were starting to come in that the people were being turned off by these hairy arms and hairy legs. And so the management had a meeting with her and asked her, to shave her arms and legs when she goes out to see clients or cover them up. And she refused to do either. And so she wondered why that, she got set back and was put off. And she was saying, well, that's being discriminative. And they said, no, this is the standard. And the fact is that our clients refusing to see you because they're offended by the way you present yourself. So it all matters of who you're offending or what you're doing. Just take into consideration that they're how other people think. It just depending on what type of job that you have. But if you're in a sales position and you want to have hairy armpits, wear a top that covers a short sleeve. It's so you can still have the choice about keeping it, but but also respect what's affecting other people.
Yeah, it's a very difficult one, especially in Europe, because it's quite common not to shave the underarms, but most of them do wear sleeves.
Yes.
It comes down to a very touchy subject, though. It's a personal thing, a personal choice. Women will say, well, the guys aren't asked that, but at the same time, they're not displaying those parts of their body. So generally, it's not an issue. But it does come down to what is okay and what is not okay to be asked to do. And if you are in a business corporate environment where there are those kind of unspoken standards, then you really don't have much choice, because if you don't comply, they'll just stop giving you those clients. And then you'll be pushed into the back corner through no fault of your own in terms of work. But unfortunately, that's just the way life is. And if you want to succeed in a certain environment, you have to do some small amounts of conforming, whether you like to or not. I mean, I had a few clients that had the similar issues in terms of tattoos, because at one point it was quite common to get a tattoo on your wrist. And so when you're doing meetings, especially marketing or sales meetings, you've got your hands going so everyone can see your wrist. And We're coming up to the ad. Please hold on and we'll catch you all back when we come back. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for turning into Charting Your Course with myself, Kathy Ma, and the phenomenal Debbie Smart. Today, the amazing Andrew Bartzis is not here. He's out on location, but he'll be back next week. And remember, everyone, you can get a private session with Debbie or myself by contacting Tanoch at galactichistorian.com. That's TENOCH. And we'll be able to get to the bottom of your issues and help you see a better way ahead. And if you want to learn more about Debbie Smart, please check out her website, which is innerdimensionhypnotherapy.net. And if you'd like to learn more about me, Kathy Ma, then please check out my website, which is Kathy's Pearls of Wisdom. And for those of you who don't know, Andrew is offering a free video series called Living the Mystical Life Daily. He shows you some tools and gives you knowledge about how to have mystical experiences in your everyday life. So sign up for free at andrewbartzis.com. Just put your name and email when you get to the page and you'll receive the first video right away. And this hour, we're also going to be taking calls for anyone that would like to talk about any issues that are gender related that have been going on with their work or social arena that they'd like to share with us, something that they have experienced or want to share for a learning type of process. The Skype is Laura Lee Solomon, that's SOLOMON, or you can contact the Studio B at 310-421-4053 or directly to Laura, which is 956-217-0261. So Debbie, we were talking about, I already forgot what we were talking about.
I think we're talking about standards in the workplace.
Oh, yes, sorry. Just blanked for a moment there. Yes, the standards, and if you want to be taken seriously within that environment that you're working in. I mean, one of the things that is always difficult to judge sometimes is whether or not this is a work culture thing or if it's a gender thing. And often it is not a gender thing, but it's mistaken as that because of who you are. You know, when you look at one of the things that Debbie talked about was, you know, a bit more casual look, you know, casual jeans and shirt hanging out, that kind of thing. You know, if you're, say, like in a startup, IT startup, something like this is the work culture way to go. So in that situation, sure, there's absolutely nothing wrong because that is the way that people dress. But if you were doing, you know, working in a stockbroking firm, then where you have a lot of client-faced meetings, then of course this is not the type of work environment where you would turn up with your revealing blouse and short skirt. So it's all about how you want people to perceive you as well, not just how you think they're prejudging you. It's what is the image that you present to people that they're taking on board and then is reflected back to you. So, you know, that's food for thought for some of you out there that may be thinking that. Another thing to look at towards yourself as well. Is that going on for you?
Yes, and another thing too, Kathy, is that if people are having, you know, especially women are having problems in a workplace or anywhere in their life, they also need to not just look at the situation, what's going on around them in that workplace and going into shame, blame and guilt. The thing is also, what am I contributing to this situation? That's another question that they need to ask themselves and to go to introspect and look at themselves first and say, you know, how can I change this situation? What have I added to this situation? Or can I help change and make this environment a lot more happy? What can I contribute in a way to change it around? Because sometimes that we can make a difference, and that's the whole thing about the divine feminine. We do have the tools and that the knowingness of being able to start looking at things in a way that we can affect and make changes. And so especially now, people who are waking up, starting to listen to these types of shows, are looking for direction. And the thing that I, you know, really, really impress on people is take a good look at yourself, where you are in that situation, look at what opportunities are presenting themselves, look at how you're affecting your environment, what you're adding to it, what value that you're giving to it, or are you adding to the problem? And then, you know, then we have people like Kathy that you can go to and ask questions. She's psychic. She can see far beyond what we can see. And or sometimes with hypnosis, it's the problem within ourselves. It's our belief system that we're being brought up to believe as a young child, and this is what has been affecting us, or it's happened to us in a past life and we've carried it on into this life. And so through hypnosis, we can go through and address the problem and change it, and you can see that your life starts to change. The same with Kathy in the corporate world that she was helping there. She made some amazing differences for people, and she does still today with doing the sessions that she does and the readings, because sometimes we can't see that we are the problem. And Kathy, with her insight and her wisdom and her psychic abilities, can actually pinpoint those for you and put you in the right direction. And so this is what this show's all about.
Yes, well, thank you for that. That flattering piece of but it is so true. It's so true. And one of the things that this comes down to is also giving away power. I mean, we didn't really address this at the first hour because we were kind of saving it to talk about this hour. But in so many situations, it's giving away power. Even the ones where we talked about what you're wearing and your own self-image that you're projecting out to other people. I mean, it is about you. If you're wanting, for example, to get the promotion in this new job or, your current job, and you are not wearing the proper attire that's reflecting your work culture, in a sense, you're also giving away power. I mean, this is just a more minor way, but it is still the same thing. You have given people the power to say no to you because of how you've presented yourself. Every time you give away power, you get less and less of yourself to play with, and you can only manifest so much when you have already given away your power. I'm sure you see that a lot, Debbie, with all your clients from all walks of life, in not only the work environment, but within the home environment, the social arena, the relationships that people have, whether it's mother, daughter, grandparent, wife, girlfriend. The giving away power must be a very prevalent thing that you see.
It really is. It really is prevalent to nearly everybody. And the thing is, it comes from that underlying belief that I'm not good enough. And so therefore they think someone else is better than them. And that starts right at a very young age or even from another life. But if you go back to the root cause and realise, where did you first establish that you're not good enough, or that you're not your self-worth? I'm not worthy for this situation or a promotion. That underlying belief is what holds you back from extending yourself to becoming greater. And this is what needs to be changed. And the sad thing about it is that we always tend to put other people up on a pedestal. And the thing is, the interesting thing is I find out that these people who are really successful, they're really good at blowing their trumpet about themselves and saying, oh, no, great, because their belief system is so strong that they are great.
Don't you know it?
Yeah, and you're totally convinced, and you go, yeah, they are great, because that you can really pick up that they believe that, and then you start to believe that. So to turn that around in on yourself and start saying to yourself, I am good enough, I am worthy for this situation, and start, communicating with your subconscious mind and your mind in such a way, like doing affirmations and boosting your own morale up is a great way to sort of circumvent it. And if not, then it's really good to be able to seek outside help, like Kathy or myself, that can make great changes in your life as well, if you can't manage to do it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. So Debbie, I mean, one of your great specialties is the past life regression. So when you're doing this for people, does issues like giving away power come up through lifetime after lifetime, or is it something that they generally pick up this lifetime? From your experience of the thousands of clients you do, what would you say is the average trend, let's call it?
The average trend is it's usually brought through from another lifetime, and they set up that same situation in this lifetime to evolve from and resolve it. And in most of the issues that we're carrying in this lifetime now, especially in this time period, that I'm finding with all my clients, is most of it's carryover, and they've just recreated it with their parents or their siblings, the situation, because that's parts of something that's unresolved in another lifetime. And they bring it through into this lifetime in order to evolve. It's part of the evolution cycle to overcome it. And so I find that also when people have this fear of their own power or feel disempowered, is because in another lifetime they've abused their power. And at the end of that life, when I ask them at their point of death, what did you conclude about yourself at your point of death? Always it comes up really, really strongly that, oh, well, I really abused my power and I'll never do that again. And they tend to go the other way and give away their power in the next life. So it's getting them back into that balance and realizing that they can let that abuse go now. That was the past. And now we're going to, through the hypnosis, I'm going to give you a stronger suggestion, and we're going to erase that imprint out of your cellular memory, so that that you can reconnect to a balanced form of power, that you can empower yourself, but you will not abuse it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, it makes so much sense when you say it out loud like that. You're like, oh yes, that could be everyone, actually. It could be me.
Well, you look back at history, how much abuse has been, of power has been used over time and still being abused now. So, how many people have come into this lifetime that have abused those powers and now have to, sometimes it's karma as well, and that they have to overcome that karma. And that can also be brought up in a past life regression so that we can release that.
I mean, one of the big things that I encounter with women, actually also a couple of guys, is, in terms of giving away power, is in the workplace, is number one, getting saddled with everyone's schlep work and not knowing how to say no because they're pleasers. And that tends to perpetuate the cycle. And, once you start that, it's very difficult to get off that cycle and make new choices. And my heart goes out to everyone who's in that situation, because to be able to stop it is very difficult, because you then have created almost a corporate or work structure where people have learnt that you're going to be the schlep person, so they give you all this stuff, and the minute you try and change that, you get a lot of blowback. So it's a very tough transition to get out of that situation. And the other big situation I also came across in terms of giving away power, of course, is that you do the sexual favor for me, I will do the work favor for you. And usually it happens more often to the women than the men, but it happens to both. And often by the time I see this with clients come to me with this issue, it's often a bit late because it's already happened. So in that sense, it's like, well, how do you get out of this situation? But in any situation, whether it has happened to you already, or you think it's going to happen, or you're worried it is happening and you're not sure if you got that sign, one thing I'll say to you is never give your power away to anyone in that kind of situation, because the minute that you do, it's almost impossible to get your energy back from them. And that dynamic almost will never change. I'm not saying impossible to change, but almost never. So if you're already in that situation and you don't know how to get out of it, you just have to completely go the other way and almost be a cold wall and ignore that person, no matter what they do. And even if they offer you a promotion, you're almost going to have to say no, because anything that they give you from that moment onwards therefore has no value to you, and they will use it against you for later. So I guess the moral of this story is that don't give away your power to anyone at work in those kind of situations, because it never ends well for you. You may short term get what you want, but it always comes at a price, and it's never over. If you find that you're in that situation and you don't know how to get out of it and ignoring them isn't working, then I would say your choices are that A, you report it, or B, you leave. Those are your only two options.
I had a situation myself, in a work situation like that, where I just had one person who was really trying to always override me and stuff like that. I ended up waiting for her one time in the coffee room, and I called her on it, because people don't like, I went through a whole time period, and this is many, many years ago, where my self-worth was not very great. And I always felt that other people were stronger than me and I'd give my power away. And where there's weakness, people will see where there's weakness and they will abuse it. And this one particular person did with me. And so I just went, so I just said to this person, I've had enough of the way that you're treating me and I don't feel I deserve it anymore. And I can't understand why you're doing this. And so I'm giving you an opportunity to explain to me why you're carrying on and being so nasty like this. And this person was so shocked to be addressed because they're so used to being bossy and overriding people and whatever. But no one is ever game enough to address them face to face. But I did it away from everybody else, so that there was not going to shame her. But I wanted to try and change that situation. And after that, she really gave me respect. So sometimes you can change that situation by addressing it nicely. I didn't do it nastily, but I just got her face to face. And,
what else can you do, right? I mean, They either take it well or they don't. But either way, you've said, this is my perimeter. Don't cross my boundaries. Yes, and I got to the point where, I had enough. I didn't care if she, if she took it wrong. Or if it was going to make it matters even worse, because I wasn't going to put up with it anymore. She could see that, and so then she just backed off, and then the respect was there, and she started picking on someone else. So just moved on to the next target. We've been told that we're having some trouble with the lines. People can't get through. So just let you know, we are trying to get on that. If you would like to call to discuss any issues, then the Skype is Laura Lee Solomon, SOLOMON, or the Studio B is 310-421-4053, or Laura, you can call her direct also, which is 956-217-0261. So going back to the giving away power, I mean, it's not only in the work environment, just on the day-to-day level, even in your everyday relationships, whether it's your husband, your boyfriend, your mother, your father. I mean, there's so many people that we as human beings are often give away our power quite, not happily, but easily. And a lot of it is because that's the way we've been taught. That's the way we've been brought up. And that's the way it always was. I mean, if you look at your life and you see this happening now, when you sit back, you ground yourself, you focus, you look back with objectivity on what's going on in your life. And if you can say, you know what, I think I have given power to my dad. I mean, he just calls all the time, and anything he wants, I drop everything and run and do it. And no matter how you justify it to yourself, oh, he's old, he's sick, you look back throughout your life, the odds are that relationship was always like that, which means you've given a certain amount of power away to your parent. And while you're a child, that may have worked, but now that you're where you are and you're on your way to exploring who you are and expanding your mind and your own development, you have to think, it's time to get that power back. It will change the dynamics between me and the parent, but I need all of me back, because for me to go further in my life, I need to be whole. I can't be giving away power. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be there when I get that call, but I'm not going to jump. Unless it's an emergency, I will have to do my own stuff first and then go. And often within the love relationships, it's very prevalent as well. The typical, oh, my girlfriend, is so controlling. She does this and this and this and makes me do whatever. I'm like, well, look at what you've just said and look at your own energy. Did she do that, or did you give her that power? And now she's just taking it and running. Because for her to do that, you had to have given her some of your power and allowed her to do that. So whether they've taken advantage of that situation or not, different story. But there is no one-way street in this. You have to have given a certain amount of power away for them to be able to do this to you.
Yes, that's really a big problem with most people these days. It's in a relationship, there's usually one that's stronger than the other. and it's usually one person giving into another person. It's very rare now to see people in a relationship where it's totally, you know, they're 50-50. They're both in their own power. There's a give and take. There's a respect on either side. So how do you get to that point? And so, and when I was doing a course years ago, it was called conflict resolution. And basically what they were saying is it's not being 50-50, it's being 40-40 and allowing 20% in the middle to negotiate. And so how do you negotiate, you know, and get evenness back in there? And so, you know, I practiced it with my relationship that I've got now with my husband. He's wonderful. And, you know, when there's certain things that came up that felt really strong that I wanted to have done a certain way or gone somewhere, and it really meant something strong to me. And he would say to me, well, does it really mean that much to you? Because we're arguing a little bit about this situation. And I'd say, yes, it really means a lot for me to do this. So he goes, okay, well, it doesn't really mean that much to me, so I will give that. And then something else would come up, and he would, you know, and then we'd be, you know, finding a bit of a struggle with each other over a certain situation. And then I'd say to him the same thing, well, how much does it mean to you? And he goes, well, it means a lot to me. And I go, well, it really doesn't mean that much to me. So, yeah, let's do it your way. There's certain ways that you can do these sort of things.
Oh, so caller 305, have you got something to share with us? Caller 305?
Yeah, this is Emma. Thank you for all the insight. You know, you just mentioned that we're giving our power, and I just see myself in that seat, because all my life I have been pleading everybody, from family, work, friends. Every time they call me for something, I just was running around. And I feel in this position having so depleted that I'm just coming back to like a new, totally new journey in my life to get my energy back. Because I mean, I abuse myself.
Yeah, it's difficult to reclaim your energy back. I mean, you've made the first biggest step, which is recognizing it. I mean, that is the hardest thing to do, because on top of the fact that we don't want to recognize it, to admit it and tell anyone about it is difficult, because we're almost embarrassed or ashamed of it because we've let it happen, and you sort of oozed into it. There was no definitive, oh, this happened on this day when this happened. No, you just kind of oozed into it, and then you wake up one day and think, wait a minute. But do you find that when you've discovered it and you try and make some changes, that there is a lot of resistance with the people now?
Oh, yes. I figured out for myself that it's had to do something with my father too, because I met my father when I was almost 14 years old, and I'm discovering that inside me, that little girl that was like a wonder, maybe she doesn't feel like she was loved enough, or she was not good enough because she doesn't have a father. I realized that, you know, that's coming just a pattern in my life. Like I was pleading everybody, trying to maybe to feel that people can say, oh, you are a good person. It was like pleading everybody for everybody to show me that I was a good person. It was something, it has been a long journey for me. Oh, I almost destroyed my whole life. I having in 3 years just a straight process, cleaning from my mother's side, my father's side, and my own.
Once you start, there's a lot, isn't there?
Oh, yes. And the more I clean, the more it's coming.
Yeah, because then you notice the other ones as well. I know. Once you see it, then you can see the cycle that you've been perpetuating in all sorts of different ways. But I mean, the fact that you're recognizing it is absolutely fantastic. I mean, one of the things that I found very useful for most people, that at least whether they're starting this process or in the middle of it, is, of course, the grounding. Grounding is the most important. But then it's also the burning of sage. Do you do that as well?
I had to do the sage because I heard that you were mentioning one of the program we ended, and I have keeping in mind that I have to go looking for the sage. I used to live in Miami, and right now I'm in New York, and I don't know most the area yet. I went last Thursday to the Grand Central, the Central Park to New York because I was feeling like I need to go to grounded to go to the park or something. And I took the wrong train, and I find out I was in the wrong train when I was in the last stop, and I took the other one back. And I ended up in the Central Park. I said, "Oh my God, I gotta do this because this means I have to go." And I just lay down
those
in the
ties are
ground.
strong. Even send you down the wrong way.
Yeah. I was riding a train to the whole like 20 stops, and then I figured I was in the front desk, and I went back. Then I finished in Central Park. Oh my God, I gotta do this, and I was in the talking to the tree, hugging the tree, lay down in the ground. It was very good, yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. It helps with the grounding, definitely. But one thing you can do if you can't get hold of any sage in the short term is you can always try using the essential oil of sage, because that is also good. I mean, not as great as burning sage, but still, it is effective. And if you put it in an aromatherapy burner, that would be great nearby you. If it's, you're around people and they don't like the smell, then one of the things I always do is I put a few drops on a tissue and just put it in your pocket. And every time you're feeling like you need the cleansing and you just need that reminder, the grounding, then take the tissue out and just sniff the tissue. I mean, no one's going to know what you're doing, and no one will question an act like that. So it's an easy way to get in and out of any situation where you're needing a bit of, grounding, a bit of cleansing, and especially if you're new to New York and you're doing things like going on the underground, what do they call it?
Yes.
That's great to just use when you're in there, because there's so many people's energy there, especially if you've been doing all this cleansing. You want to remain grounded and remain as clean as possible. It's great to be sniffing the tissue with the sage. It's a very modern, easy, friendly way to achieve it.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Do you have some
That
tips,
is an
Debbie,
easy
that
one,
she could use? Debbie?
Hello?
Yes, I've got something I've got to say too. So Emma, it's Emma, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So Emma, I went through a stage like that myself, where I used to say yes to everybody, and run yourself very tired. I started to learn to say no, I can't make it, or I can't do that. I would really love to, but I'm really tired, and I need to do this for myself, or I need to do something else. And I started to. The more I said no, the more I empowered myself.
Wow.
So learn to say, because I used to fear that if I said no to everybody, they wouldn't like me anymore, and that's rejection, right? So one of our biggest fear is rejection.
Yes.
So love yourself enough to say, I really deserve to give myself the time and learn to say no, because I really need to give to me.
Yes.
All right, we're coming up to the ad. Emma, could you hold on and we'll get back to you?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Back, everyone, to Charting Your Course with myself, Kathy Ma, and the phenomenal Debbie Smart. If you'd like to learn more about Debbie, you can go to her website, innerdimensionhypnotherapy.net. And if you'd like to learn more about me, Kathy Ma, you can go to kathyspearlsofwisdom.com. And for those of you that are trying to contact us to call in to talk about giving away your power within work, relationships, any social arena, which is our topic at the moment, please contact Laura Lee on the Skype, which is Laura Lee Solomon, and you must send her a request first to accept you, otherwise you won't be able to get through. Or you can call Studio B, which is 310-421-4053, or contact Laura directly, 956-217-0261. And remember, if you want to get a private session with Debbie or myself by contacting Tanoch at galactichistorian.com. That's TENOCH. So we'll be able to get to the bottom of your issues and help you see a better way ahead. So go ahead and contact Tanoch at galactichistorian.com if you want to get a private session with Debbie or myself. Emma, are you still there?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for waiting. I think Debbie was talking to you.
Yes. Yeah, so Emma, so I just suggest that every day you say to yourself that I am worthy, I am good enough, I can give myself the time and the space that I need. If you need to rest, instead of running yourself ragged, I really love myself enough to give myself that time and space. Other people, when you start to learn to say no, they will get used to not pushing you and expecting, because
Okay.
it's an expectation because you've always done everything for them when they've ever asked you. And so it's now you have to retrain them that there's some times that you will when you're ready if you want to, and there's times when you're just going to give yourself the space and say, no, I'm too busy, I've got something else on, I've got other appointments, whatever it is. And so after a while, they will learn to appreciate the time that you do give them when you are willing to give it to them. And you'll also really, really empower yourself, and you'll learn to love yourself more for it.
Yes, that was my problem. I think I haven't loved myself. I always was pleading everybody else. Yeah.
Yes,
I was putting myself in the back in the line. I always was doing that.
Yes,
it
it's
has
very
been a
difficult
long
once you get in that
journey.
habit. Yeah.
It's time for change, Emma. Time for change.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Debbie and Kathy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for calling in, Emma. It was really, really good to talk to you. You definitely call us back in 3 months and let us know how things went for you. Did the grounding help?
Okay.
Yeah, because you sharing your issues today and what's going on for you has been a great lesson for all of us and everyone listening.
Yes.
So thank you so much for calling.
Thank you. I will do the sage. I was trying to see if I used to use the white sage in Miami. I'm going to see if I can get it here. I will start with this oil.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, have a blessing evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that was a great call, wasn't it, Debbie?
Yes, it was. And I can really relate to her because I've been there in the past, many years ago. But, she can see through our example that you can overcome that.
And what she's going through is so common. It happens to so many people. I mean, it's so great that she shared this with us, because at least so many people listening now know they're not alone with feeling like this, because it is something that happens to all of us. Giving away power in all sorts of relationships happens so often, and it's insidious. By the time you realized what's going on, it's already gone. It's already happened.
Yeah, that's right. And it's because we want them to love us, and it really boils down to we don't love ourselves enough to give that to ourselves. We give it to everybody else but ourselves.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another caller. Caller 609. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Yes. Hi, Debbie. Kathy, this is Makiko. I'm calling from New Jersey.
Oh, hello. How are you, Makiko?
I'm great because I finally got through.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I'm having so much trouble. I just wanted to share my recent experience with a session with Debbie, if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, that would be wonderful.
Yes. So I have been a personal challenge for last 2 decades in terms of relationship, and then why I could not change my life. I could heal others. I could give great advice to others and seem to work, but I cannot do this to myself. So I finally decided to do some investment to myself. Like, Kathy and Debbie, as you both said, love yourself first. So I did that, and I asked Debbie to do the past life regression session, and it was incredible. I just could not believe the results. And basically, from the session, I learned this relationship is very much a fear-based, kind of a domination, or being dominated, or fear-based, however you want to call it. And this is coming from not just this lifetime. I was thinking about the way I was raised, or cultural programming, was actually kind of repeated pattern from the previous.
Oh, wow. Would you mind giving us an example of the fear base so that we can better understand what you mean?
Yes. So I guess it's not like the fear. Oh, wow, I'm hearing a lot of background.
Yes. Emma 305, could you please mute or hang up? Thank you. Thank you so much, Emma. Please, sorry, Makiko, go ahead.
Yes. It's not like a very clear, like it's not like abusive, like, you know, I am being abused like physically or not something like that. But it was almost like more mental, emotional trigger that this partner had. So it's very subtle, but because it is subtle, you kind of let it go, and you know, I have a responsibility to heal him, or I have a responsibility to, you know, solve this issue, or because of the kind of anxiety and the kind of triggering some sort of fear within me, that I immediately kind of, I had to protect everyone.
So is it more that it was like to avoid conflict? The fear-based thing reacts and then you give away power. Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot. And it's also one of those things that happens it's very insidious. By the time you realize what's going on, it's already fully going on for a while. It's a difficult one because often, I'm sure Debbie has already pointed out, you know, in your past lives, this has been an issue. But it's also very often that it's something that you have got when you are very young, and it's a learnt behavior. So the odds are that someone in your family or close family friends, someone has reacted in the same way. And it's almost like you're mimicking that behavior, because that behavior typically is more learnt by example rather than just coming up on your own.
Yes, and it was coming through lifetimes.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you talk about past lifetimes, who knows, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it affects this life, and then if you don't change it, it'll go into your future life as well.
So after Debbie helped you face this issue, Makiko, did you find that you have a lot more confidence now in these sort of situations?
Yes, well, certainly I know what I need to do, but it's also, I realize that, you know, I'm not sure this is just me, but it helps me just talking about this to the close friends, or having a team of people supporting that along the way, because this is, I realize, a process. It's not like a one day I decided, okay, I do no longer fear-based relationship, and then change everything. It's like
if only, right?
It definitely is a process. Definitely is a process, and it's very subtle.
Yeah. So Kathy, Debbie, you both are pretty strong women, and you know, successful in many ways. If it's not every way, it's many ways. I wonder if you could share with us what is your, I don't want to say secret, but what do you do to empower yourself and love yourself each day, and to, you know, get through some of the difficult challenges?
That's a very good question. Very, very good question. I mean, it's one which, as you go through growing up and aging, it keeps evolving and changing, because when you start off and you try and empower yourself and be strong, you realize a decade later that in actual fact you knew nothing about it. And you thought what you were doing was empowering yourself, but really it wasn't. So it's a very difficult one, because you have to think almost bigger than yourself. If you can imagine, for me, what works is if you can imagine yourself, visualize yourself out in front of you. And if you can't visualize yourself as a whole person, just use a stick figure, it doesn't matter. And when you look at yourself, just know that you are going to drain all the fear and all the negative out of you. Just know it, and then visualize it in however that works for you. If you really can't visualize it at all, then draw it on a piece of paper, whatever it is for you. And then go through the process of getting rid of all that. Then you want to fill yourself up with an abundance of you. And I know that sounds arrogant. I know that sounds weird, but for this particular instance, you want to be full of yourself. All right. And I know people think, oh, that's like bragging. No, this is, you need to be full of you, because everyone else's energy is not you. When you are full of you and you're full of yourself and you're glowing, that's when you become powerful. You have to know that you're full of you. You don't have to tell anyone about it, but you have to know everything in you is you. And once you feel that, you see it, you visualize it, you will exude it. It sounds like a very silly and simple process, but it's actually quite difficult to do. When I first discovered this, it probably took me maybe 3 years to master. And I visualized every day. Obviously, I was just doing it on my own. I didn't have like now, I wish I had known all that as a guide and just done that. But I'm just telling you how long it took me to give you a frame of reference. Like, if you do this every day and you don't feel a big difference in 2 months, don't worry. It's not in any way a reflection of you. It's just a reflection of the process. It will take as long or as short as it takes for that individual person. But for me, in my youth, I gave a lot of power away. I mean, a lot. I gave loads of power away to family members. I gave a lot away to men in my life. I gave a lot away to even friends. I would consider myself lowest on the totem pole. So I had a lot of work to fill myself up with me.
I can't imagine, Kathy, looking at you now. It's mind-blowing listening to that. But in a sense, it's empowering. Even you went through this process, and then so power of. Would you mind expanding a little? So imagine myself in full power. Is that sort of you?
So
said?
Imagine yourself full of you, the power of you. So if you can, in your head or in your mind's eye, visualize all the power you have given away. And you don't have to count how many pieces there are. Just know that they're out there. Imagine like shards of glass, right? And you're now recalling them. You're clapping your fingers, clapping your hands, and you're recalling all the broken glass to come back to the vase. All right? And that is the process that you're trying to do. You're calling all the bits of yourself, all the shards of yourself, and you're calling it back to go back into the vase, which is you. And you need to fill that vase up, not only with all the glass, but with water. So it's all full of you. You, glorious you. And even to yourself, say, I'm full of myself. I mean, like I said, you don't have to tell people what you're doing. You just say it to yourself, I'm full of myself. I'm full of me. I've got all me back. All my power is back, and you just keep visualizing it, keep feeling it, because eventually you will bring all your power back. And when you even start to fill up and get half of the power back that you gave away, you will feel amazing. You will. You feel like you could climb Mount Everest, because it's been so long that you haven't had this power. And it's been bit by bit. From the day you were born, you started giving power away. And the incidents we talked about in the first hour, where we were using extreme examples, to just highlight this topic to get to giving away power. Because one of the things, again, even you go to the workplace, you say, oh, it's because I'm female, I don't get this, or, they're all male dominated, or it's all female dominated, therefore they won't give it to me. Whereas it's like, you know what, every time you think that, whether it's true or not, you give your power away because you're believing in it.
Oh my God, that is so true. I have a double, that's what people tell me, and then I accept it too. It's not only I'm a female. I was in a very much a conservative male-dominating industry segments so long that they automatically see me that, well, first of all, I'm from Japan, and they have a lot of Japanese image towards Japanese women.
Oh, yeah, giving away power. They just take it. You're not even giving it. They're just taking it.
Yeah, it's already taken before you're born.
Yes.
Oh, you're female, to that point. And then also, I was never, my English is not my native language. So that is also, but it's all I am accepting, or I already giving away by accepting their perception but it's been a difficult one to overcome as throughout my career. But then I realized my personal life it required a lot more attention than my career, and then that's why I really wanted to talk to Debbie about this, and then she helped me a lot. But basically she just showed me the blueprint of where I am now and where I need to go. And Kathy, you kind of provided me how to do this, and it's very empowering. I don't think anybody told me that technique, so I would definitely, I would write it down and we'll start doing it.
Good. See, charting your course. We're giving you all sorts of tips, techniques, ways to move forward. Like every week we got different topics. It's always a lot of fun, but I love it that you're saying that you've learned something and it's useful to you. I mean, this was our goal, is to cover all different facets of life and see what challenges people have, and how we can empower them to jump over them or get rid of them or whatever it is, but definitely move forward with your own development. Debbie, did you have some tips also?
Yes, I was going to say to Makiko, also in the morning when you go into the bathroom, look in the mirror and tell yourself, I'm a very powerful woman. I am enough. I am good enough. I am good enough. I love myself. I am powerful. Whatever, just boost yourself up and fill yourself up with yourself, like Kathy was saying. So find the words or the sentences that when you're looking in the mirror that you're telling yourself that I am good enough. I am worthy. I am a strong, powerful woman. And I can do this. And every day and every morning you'll find that your day will become so different, because you will be strong, you will be happy, you'll be full of yourself, of energy and vitality, and people that will reflect off onto other people, and people will think more of the way they treat you. You will feel empowered. So I'm so glad that Makiko, that the regression really helped turn a lot of things around for you, but it's a work in process. It's a subtle way of continuing this process. And so these are why it's really good to have these tips about filling yourself up with self-worth, that you're good, that you're powerful, that you're lovable, that you deserve the life that you deserve, or deserve the life that you want to have. And these are things that we have to affirm to ourselves every day until we become it.
Oh my God, Debbie, I was like, I don't know, I'm like tearing up right now. And it sounds simple, but it's just very powerful when you said it. When you said that everybody deserves, the love, and I kind of remember Andrew was saying that once during an interview. He said, everybody deserves multidimensional love. It shouldn't be that hard to find the love they deserve. And it was like, I was so choked up, and I didn't want to cry. I'm not crying in front of him, but it was just a flashback of that, and it's so true. Everybody deserves. Everybody do deserve.
Everybody deserves to be loved, and you have to tell yourself, I deserve this. I am lovable. I am good enough to be loved. I am a powerful woman. I'm an amazing person. So it's whatever it takes, Makiko, to really build up your confidence again. That will give you your power back, so that you can live your life and you can live your personal dream and your life purpose.
Yeah. My gosh, thank you so much, Debbie. I hope more and more people realize and get session from you, Debbie, and then Kathy. I mean, it's just, you both are amazing, powerful women. And thank you so much for doing this for all of us.
Oh, thank you so much for calling, Makiko. Sometimes it's very difficult to call in and share your story because, you're sort of shy or embarrassed or whatever, and it takes a lot of courage.
I'm shameless.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing with everyone, because your story will touch on many people's lives, and it's a good teaching for all of us, because you're not the only one who goes through this. So what people have learned from you today also is awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to call us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Makiko, and good luck with that. And I know that, like Kathy said, you're not the only one. We've all been there. Kathy's been there. I've been there, and you can see that we've done the work, and this is where it's brought us to this point where we've empowered ourselves. So it is attainable, and you can do that.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Oh, love you both.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling, Makiko.
My pleasure. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye now.
All right. Wow, Debbie, that was an amazing call. It's so great to have someone call in and give you feedback as well. Clearly, you've been awesome with her and really made a big difference in her life.
I saw a wonderful change in her whole energy with that session, and I know that it's going to be it's a work in process like anything, and there's layers to certain things, and I know that she's got several layers that she's probably going to work through, just like all of us. We it's never ending. We still continually to work on ourselves. There's so much more room to grow and evolve in our own daily lives. And so it's wonderful to be able to get onto these shows and share with people our own journeys so that it can encourage them and to know and see that this can be attainable.
Oh, yes, you're so right, Debbie. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to Charting Your Course with myself, Kathy